Hey everybody, it is another new episode day on Tales from a Professional Nerd. I'm Bryan, I'm your nerd today. So let's see. It's been kind of a crazy week. Nothing, you know, dramatic or over dramatic, I should say. Had some cool stuff, cool advertising and stuff come out for some of the new Shadowrun things. Couple of a neat video that the Catalyst guys put out, kind of hinting at some of the overarching plot that we're drawing up in some of those adventures or missions or whatever you want to call them, source books. Been doing a lot of painting and a lot of writing for the Gen Con charity event. Doing a lot of adaptations. Got the characters out to all of my players. Hopefully they'll get a chance to take a look at them and get familiar with their personas. Let's see what else happened this week before we get into the actual meat of the episode. Got a couple of things. Picked up something from my local game store that is actually going to go hand in hand with... I don't know if I mentioned it before. I know I mentioned Dragonfall, which is a gaming convention, a tabletop gaming convention in October up in Elmhurst, Illinois, up by Chicago. But I don't know. I don't remember if I mentioned that I'm actually going to be a guest of that convention. I'm going to be an industry guest there, which means I'm going to get to run some cool events. I'm going to get to play some events. I'm going to run a Q&A, a live Q&A for the channel. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But there's also going to be a couple of events that I'm going to be playing in. One of which is a game that I've never actually played yet. So this week I actually went and picked up the models. I haven't got them painted yet for the game. Zarbag's Clever Goblin Runs, or whatever they're called. I don't remember, but it's for Shadespire Night Vault. Ever since it came out, Shadespire, all my friends that have played Shadespire or play Shadespire regularly have said, "Oh man, you need to get into this. You need to get into this. It's a really fun game. It's a board game that scratches a little bit of that kind of Mordheim itch, and it's got cool figures and small numbers, and it plays fast." And I've watched a couple of how-to videos. I've thumbed through the cards and things that come with my guys. But I'm looking forward to getting them painted. It's going to be a little while. I've got other stuff going on, but it's been a really long time since I've painted a Night Goblin, or some squigs for that matter. But I look forward to it, and these guys are going to be a lot of fun. So I picked up the little box set that it comes with from my local game store. It comes with all the cards and things. The only thing it doesn't come with, which I was under the impression that these little box sets were fully, this is everything you need. Watching some of those videos, I realized I don't have any counters or any dice. Or any magic dice or anything like that for these guys. So I'm going to probably need to take a look at eBay or something to see if I can't find a dice set or a cheap used Night Vault set for the counters or whatnot. I don't know. Or just really hope that everywhere I go to play this game that they've got everything I need. Because as it is right now, I've just got figures and cards. I don't know, maybe in the comments, or if any of you guys know how to get some cheapo goblin accessories for Shadespire Night Vault, let me know. Either hit me up a personal message or put in the comments or whatnot. because I would like to have some of that stuff, and I don't want to spend an arm and a leg doing it, because this is literally just a for funsies kind of thing that I want to do. So there's at Dragonfall, I'm going to be doing a couple of other things while I'm there. I'm going to be playing in some Shadowrun events. I'm going to run a Shadowrun game. I'm going to play in some D&D events. I'm probably going to run a D&D game. It's going to be a good time. So if you get a chance, if you're open on that in October, and you might be able to make it out that way, and you like playing tabletop games, role-playing and miniatures and that sort of thing, swing on out. It's cheap to get in, and I think the event listing goes up sometime soon, so you can actually start picking out which events you're going to play in. And who knows, maybe you'll get to play with me, or with me as your storyteller or game master or whatnot. Let's see, what else? This week, also got, let's see, I saw the links to our Shadowrun novellas, the new, my 9 novella, and then the other guys who are writing for us as well. I saw that we have they're live on Amazon. You can buy them for your Kindle on Amazon. I'll put the link in the directions, so you guys can get a hold of your own copies. I saw that a couple of reviews had started to come in on at least Dylan's first book, his first novella, and hopefully we'll start seeing some more reviews, kind of coming down the road as people start reading on some of the other stuff. I know that I would really love to hear some opinions and reviews, hopefully positive, but I understand if they're not, of my book, the third in that series. So follow the link, throw a couple of bucks at Amazon, and give it a read and see what you'll see what Shadowrun's all about, and let me know, let us know, let the world at Amazon know how awesome, or not, hopefully awesome, we are. All right. And then I got word from, so I've mentioned several times that I'm doing some scenario work and some minor writing for Modiphius, for the Fallout Wasteland Warfare miniatures game, and hopefully down the road some of their other games, Elder Scrolls, for instance. But I got word from their PR manager earlier this week that they have a Twitch channel, which I did not know. Again, I hate sometimes feeling like I've got my head in the sand, because I get so sucked into my own stuff and the things that I'm working on that I don't even notice. But yeah, my guys at Modiphius, they've got a Twitch channel where there are some like live streamed role-playing games that they're playing, some of their miniature games that they're playing. So I'm gonna throw the Twitch address in the direction, or in the instructions, blah, in the description below of this video. Blah. And give it a look if you're a Twitch watcher and you want to see some of these games get played, or I know that if that channel gets more popular, I was talking to Panny, I think is the PR person's name, Panny. I was talking to her, and I'm hoping that maybe I might be able to organize some maybe some cross-pollination of stuff from our channel, or maybe do a couple of Twitch events over there and then rebroadcast them here. I don't know. I don't know how any of that works. I have not twitched, but I wanted to get the word out there that they've got one, and that's awesome. I think more companies need to have their games being played live, to show to show the world how they play them, the spirit in which they play them, and maybe if there's something in the rules or something that is a little kitschy that they you might not be able to recognize just by reading the language in the rule book 5 or 6 times. Maybe it's not written quite clearly, or maybe you're missing a slight intent because of translation issue. Whatever the case may be, seeing it played live by the people who make it, by the people who design it and develop it, can help you see how the game was intended to be played. So I say give them a click, see what's up, watch some of their stuff, tell them I sent you. Yeah, so this week, besides all of that, getting the stuff ready for the Shadespire, learning how to play. I know my local game store has an event coming up that's a learn to play, so I'm gonna get thrown to the wolves in Shadespire and figure out what's up there. I'm gonna keep painting, but speaking of paint, so just yesterday in the mail, I got something from our good friends out at Stuart Semple Productions. Okay, so if you don't know about Stuart Semple, first off, you probably haven't been following me a long time, because Stuart's amazing. First off, he is a artistic mogul, if that makes any sense. It basically, this guy, he's an artist, and he has expanded his mind to the point where he really does focus on how to make an artist's life easier and better, or even just more fun. And a few years ago, we're going to get into a little thing here. Before I get into the scenario and start showing you things, he came up with a paint that he called the Blackest Black, and it really, having seen it or having seen the effects that it is, as far as a black paint goes, it's eerie. Like you paint things with it, and it loses all definition. It sucks up all of the light, and it really can be used for some pretty cool visual effects. Well, there is another artist by the name of Anish Kapoor that let's see. I don't know how I can put this without sounding kind of like a jerk. I'm just going to say it. He's kind of corporate. He's the kind of artist that wants to make a statement for himself, not the art, and speaks out very regularly about how, he's, let's see, if Stuart is to... No, I'm not going to try that because I don't know any of the names. I never written them down in front of me, and that'd be an off-the-cuff metaphor. So you know how in Ratatouille, for those of you who have children or watch Disney Pixar movies, in Ratatouille, there's that kind of Chef Boyardee character that's like, anybody can cook, if they have the right spirit and the right will and practice and whatnot. Stuart's in that camp. Anybody can make art. Art is very subjective. Art can be whatever it needs to be if you, the artist, wishes to create it. And Stuart falls into the camp of he's a lot like me in the fact that if you can create, create. If you don't think you can create, you probably are wrong. You just haven't tried. And Anish Kapoor is more of the if you've gone to art school for 20 years and this creates masterpieces, or here's this empty chair in a room and the artist has called it the future and people are going to pay thousands of dollars for it. He's very very meta about how art should be for artists only. And this guy scooped up all of Stuart's initial run of Blackest Black. Not because he wanted to use it for any particular reason. He scooped it up so no one else could use it. He literally stole the access from the artistic community because he wanted it for himself. It's like a Scooby-Doo villain move, you know? And so Stuart has made it his personal goal of all of the cool-ass things that he makes. He made Blackest Black 2, which is just a blacker version of his first, a superior version of his first set of Blackest Black's paint. He made the goldest gold that ever golded, which I own. That was my first Stuart Semple production that I grabbed, that I adore. He created the pinkest pink. You know, you're seeing a theme here. He goes with, you know, really just these things that are unbelievably cool and powerful, like, artistic tools. And, you know, they're well priced. He wants it for the world to be able to use. However, ever since Mr. Kapoor did the whole buying up all the Blackest Black thing, Stuart now requires you to sign like a waiver when you buy stuff from him that basically swears under penalty of law, although I don't know how you could sue somebody for it, that you are not Anish Kapoor and that you are not working for Anish Kapoor and you will not be giving these materials to Anish Kapoor. It's awesome. I mean, maybe it's a PR move, maybe it's a legitimate just kind of a, you know, bite your thumb at this guy who's just, you know, who's screwed with you in the past. But whatever the case may be, there's this very cool, look it up on YouTube, like Semple versus Kapoor, and you can probably find it. But either way, last year, Stuart came up with this really cool stuff that I am going to try and get open out of this shrink wrap, which is killing me, called Lit. And Lit is I don't want to say glow in the dark, it is a phosphorescent pigment. So it's just it's a powder that, I don't know, can I do the thing? Nope, that's not gonna you guys can't see anything. Let's see if I can do it this way. Can I shield it from the light? No, I can't. Okay. Maybe in a future hobby segment I'll figure out how to do this and show you. It is a pigment that is so phosphorescent that when I add some medium to this and I get it on a model, that it will generate it'll generate light, and it's gonna be awesome for like highlights. It's gonna be great for object source lighting. If I can put like just a little bit of a rim on things, it's gonna be awesome. So I was looking into this, and while I was looking into picking up some Lit, which this came in the mail yesterday, while I was looking at Lit, I saw that our dear friend Stuart Semple had a Kickstarter for not Blackest Black, not Blackest Black 2, but Blackest Black 3. And of course, I was not going to miss out on getting my hands on some. So this just came in the mail yesterday, the Blackest Black 3. I have yet to use it. I will do some testing on it, but I bought 50 milliliters of it, so I've got it for a while. And I'm excited to give it a shot. I'm excited to see what kind of effects I can come up with using it. Between that and Lit, my Kickstarter package made me super excited yesterday. However, it also came with other cool stuff. It came with a little thank you note that is also a coupon for his website for stuartsemple.com. I'm not going to show you the coupon because I don't want to cheat and use the code. It says, "Hello, I just wanted to take this moment to thank you for your support. It's so lovely of you to help me share my colors with the world. I really hope you love the black we made and that you make brilliant stuff with it. I'll keep my eyes out on Instagram for your work. Please tag it, #ShareTheBlack, so I see it. Love and thanks, Stuart." Now, I don't do Instagram, but I do talk to Stuart on Facebook. I have several times before because, honestly, when I went to freelance, I reached out to him to see if there's anything I could do. I love his company. I love what he stands for, and I still will. I'll probably send him a thank you note once I start doing stuff using Lit and Black 3 to see what's up. But it came with a little, advertisement thing. It's got this cool, he's got his own little palette. It's got rainbow liquid, goldest gold, more lit, world's pinkest pink, dazzle, which is plant-based glitter you can add to your paint. It's just, again, he's awesome. He does cool stuff. He thinks like an artist because he is an artist. But not just that. Dun-dun-dun-dun. It came with a little packet of buttons. So let's take a look at these. I haven't had a chance to look at them, other than the fact that they're brilliantly colored, as I would expect. So one of them is just the blackest black 3 lines. So it's just the 3 lines. One of them is the blackest black. One of them says, "Exposure to Kapoor may cause irritation." So like I said, little feud between him and Anish Kapoor. And then there's one that's a little tiny text. So let's see. It says, I got it upside down. It says, "By wearing the badgiest badge, you confirm that you are not Anish Kapoor, that you are in no way affiliated to Anish Kapoor. You are not wearing the badgiest badge on behalf of Anish Kapoor or an associate of Anish Kapoor. To the best of your knowledge, information, and belief, this badgiest badge will not make its way into the hands of Anish Kapoor." No joke, that is exactly what it says on this little button. And so the badgiest badge, I'm gonna put it on my lanyard for when I take it to shows. The other three buttons, I don't know. I'll probably give one to my wife. She's an artist. And then the others, I'll figure something out to do. But I'm not done. There's more stuff. It came with a little packet of stickers, and on the back in like Sharpie, like it's not even just a print. It says, "Be excellent to one another," Bill and Ted reference. "And share your colors. Love, Stuart." And so let's take a look. Let's take a look at what kind of stickers, because I think one of these is going to go on my car. We have a splotch that just says "Blackest Black." Oh, that is a splotch that's a unicorn. If you can tell, it kind of looks like a unicorn's head. Now, that's important because one of the things that Stuart has used to show the fact that painting with the blackest black colors it turns 3D objects into this just black plane. He's used before a unicorn's head. And then there's the blackest black kind of in kind of block letters. Black block letters. My black is blacker than yours. Oh, that's awesome. Again, I don't. I think the unicorn might be the one that goes on. And then there's just a simple paint bottle. That's just the black 3.0. I dig it. One of these. I think it'll end up being the unicorn's head. Well, it's gonna end up on my car. To celebrate the blackest black. But yeah, this is the stuff I got through the Kickstarter. And I know that not everybody had a chance to get involved with that sort of thing, but if you didn't, you can at least pop over to Stuart's order page and order some cool stuff. The stuff that I've used, I can swear by. is the goldest gold that ever golded. I have not used the blackest black yet, nor have I used lit, but I've seen it used to great effect. And at one of the crystal brushes, I saw somebody who had used his glitter. So give it a look. Take a look. All right. I have spent way too much time talking about my week and all that stuff, and cool things, and goblins, and blackest black, and all that stuff. So let's get into today's topic. So when you clicked on the link to get to this episode, you saw that today is called Game Balance versus the Rule of Cool. So this stems from a few weeks ago, I asked everybody on Twitter and Facebook if if they had any ideas for future topics. And this came from, I believe, a Dark Age aficionado and player of some esteem named Chad Brunner. So thank you, Chad, for this topic. So game balance versus the rule of cool. I should probably tell you what he's trying to refer to there is when designing things. There's different thoughts. There's different thought processes. And one of the thought processes is, am I designing this super mathematically to iron out all the bugs, to make it airtight and make it work like a well-oiled machine coming out of the gate, and the purpose is to create a seamless design? Or is the initial thought process behind it more along the lines of, man, it's going to be awesome seeing this on the tabletop, or seeing this in someone's role-playing game, or when they play this card, it's going to be the coolest. And then once you've figured out how cool it is, figure out how to make it work and make it fair. Because I think that's probably there's no way of saying one way. Hang on a second. Again, Soda Stream, not pickle juice. There is the end result. You can always end up designing something, whether you designed it for game balance or designed it for rule of cool. There is always the possibility that what you've created will cause a ripple in the game, whether it's because the initial game has got some hiccups in it, or if it's part of an expansion or something you've added in later on. Without the proper playtesting and without the proper, the right amount of eyes on it to see what it could do or what it's capable of doing, without all of these things happening, you can very easily get stuck in your head about a design and then cause problems to the greater game as it is. I personally believe that no matter what your initial thoughts are, whether you're doing this as a prime component because it's something that needs to happen, or the game needs this, or this faction needs this, or this deck loses if it doesn't have this, or if you're designing something because, man, dinosaurs are cool, or whatever. If you go into it and you do not care if the final product is going to mess with that balance between the rule set, the fairness, the even-handed neutrality of the rule set itself, or the sanctity of the narrative, let's say, for instance, you are building a game, or you're building something for a game that up until this point has been completely historical. It has been nothing but muskets and tomahawks and arrows and hiding in trees, and very, very loyal to the narrative of real history. and you come up with an expansion piece that is an alien bounty hunter with a laser gun, you are probably going to have to work real hard to make that fit if that's not how it was intended. Whether you know, it could have the best rules that you could possibly have, fairness and otherwise, you know, make him cost 100 points or whatever the game requires to make it fair. But a lot of your players, especially if the players have been in this for a long time, if you've never once alluded to the fact that this game might have some fictional components to it, or might have some visitors from outer space, you're going to get some kickback. You're going to get some players that are like, I don't need the Predator in my Revolutionary War, so thank you, no. And the opposite can be true as well. Is if you've got a game that is super fun and fluid and everything is people play this game because it is crazy and out there and they love it, and you come up with an expansion that is dry and boring and rules perfect. You know, everything is just to the numbers, and this army is probably going to win, or at least it's going to compete well because all of these rules are perfectly fit in seamlessly, because a lot of the troops are just carbon copies of each other based off of rule sets and numbers and all math. You're probably going to get a lot of kickback on that too, because it's not as fun. It's not as rule of cool, to keep going back to that statement. So I think with anything, especially in the case of game design, is you have to know why you're designing something, and know the answer isn't just because, your client told you to, or because the game needs an expansion. Not every game needs expansions. It does if it needs to stay profitable, and it does if it needs to grow, which that'll be a completely different topic. We'll get into, I might write that down for maybe next week, is the edition wars, why edition wars happen, and why some gamers view that as a bad thing, as a negative thing. You know what? I'm going to write that down now before I forget. I'm going to write it down on my little topic list. Edition wars. Because I think that'll be a really good video, and I think that a lot of people will enjoy talking and discussing and hopefully making all kinds of cool comments. So, me personally, I tend to be more of a rule of cool type designer. If it is for something that is already established. If I'm making an expansion, if I'm making additional rules or additional units for something, or adding in a new facet to an existing game, I generally don't want to redesign the basic wheel. I don't want to turn a car into a motorbike. I would much rather work with the working and existing rule set that they have and create some new fun, cool stuff to get gamers excited and to get people, wanting to play and see the cool stuff and see the neat stuff. And then hopefully my skill as a designer will help me make those cool ideas, bring those in line with the rest of the game, so it doesn't feel like, oh, hey, someone just threw a depth charge in the pond. It instead just feels like, oh, all right, no, here's some new stuff for us to play with. If it is something that I am being told to create from scratch, I probably, this is gonna be news to a lot of people out there. I probably start more with game balance before I would start getting into, ooh, this would be cool. I want to make sure the game works. I want to make sure that the idea is sound before we start adding in all the bells and whistles and fun, fun moments and narratives. And now that is not to say that there aren't instances where part of the design is born out of, man, it would be cool if this model, or if there was a faction that could do this. All right. Or in this game, I really want models to be able to cut themselves to generate more power or whatever. But so either way, I think I think that both of these stylizations have a place when you're designing rules, when you're coming up with stuff, whether it's a brand new game entity or whether it is something adding to a new or to an old game. Is I think that you got to find that happy middle ground, because if you make stuff that is solely because you think it's the coolest thing ever, you're probably going to end up that particular thing, unless you have some really popular tastes in what you're trying to create. It's going to be a very niche market, and the whole goal as a professional, I mean, some people will argue with me, but the whole goal as a professional game designer or game developer is for other people to play these games, for them to hopefully sell and to be profitable and to continue on, throughout the history of gaming. And that sounds a little elite and a little narcissistic, but the whole point is to make stuff that will last, make stuff that people will keep wanting to buy and keep wanting to play. And I think that there is a reason why, looking at the very many Warhammer 40,000 or Warhammer 40K properties out there, whether it's a card game or a board game or a video game or the various miniature games or spin-off board games, or insert blah 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 game from 40K, whereas almost all of them have the starring role or at least focus on Space Marines. And a lot of people give Space Marines hell because they're like, oh, they're so generic, they're just, here they are, they're just big supermen in armor, they're stormtroopers that, everybody knows who, sees these guys in their armor and their big guns, and, blah, they're boring, and everyone's seen Starship Troopers and everyone's read those books. But there is something to be said for a trope that works. There's a reason why. Very recently, another game designer, Cam Banks, on his Twitter, he was talking about how Driz Duerden, the R.I. Salvatore Drow Ranger character from Forgotten Realms books, that started the Drow craze back in the 90s. Without him, there would be no Menzaber and Zan box set. There would be no, concept of the two-handed swashbuckling ranger. And Cam had written a little thing. He was like, I think we have Driz to thank for this, both in a positive and a negative. And I agree that there are some things that have become iconic in gaming. And, in my mind, when I think of Ranger, I think of Strider from Lord of the Rings, of Aragorn. A cloaked woodsman, decent with a bow, good with a sword, but more than anything, he's a tracker and a wilderman. And I think that it was Driz and his two-sword dancey style of icing, death, and twinkle. Not kidding. Those are the names of his scimitars. That put it in people's heads that a ranger is a two-sword having fighting machine. And obviously the rules don't reflect that all the time. But as the game, as D&D has progressed, they saw how popular Drizzt concept, maybe not necessarily the Drow race, or maybe not necessarily, the character itself, but what it was capable of, and the idea of, these two flashing scimitars in combat. You've already got the fighter that can do this sort of thing. Why then would you have your ranger class, your scout class, why would you design him later on as the editions progress to be able to do that? And the reason for that is because you listen to your fan base, you hear what they are saying, and what they're saying is that they think Driz Duerden is the coolest. They want Wolverine with scimitars. They want this guy in their game, and they want it to be a guy who can maybe have an animal companion at some point, whether it's a big panther. They want to be able to have this dude on the frontier who's a longsword Cuisinart. And whether or not that is something that needed to be added, it became part of the game. And I think that's one of those situations where, D&D is relatively balanced. I say relatively because every time something new comes out, it tends to ripple the water. But I really do believe that the current rendition of the Ranger was very much created via Rule of Cool. People saw, hell, the reason why Drow are a player character race, they were always monsters. They were the evil dark elves from Menzoberranzan, the city of spiders with their dark queen Lolth. They were the bad guy. And then Salvatore wrote the books and created the idea that, maybe not all Drow are bad. Because here's Drizzt. Here's this one who's fighting against the evil in the system. And check out how cool he is. And now you have all these, teenage D&D players that want to be Rangers because they want to be Drizzt. And it opened the doors for Drow are now player character races. Hell, as time has moved on, initially I remember the first time when it was like the Complete Book of Elves, the Complete Handbook of Elves, is where Drow became the first time you saw player character rules for Drow. And I remember my high school group, we flipped out. We were like, oh my god, that's insane, that's so good, they're so powerful. And then because they built them like a monster, they had all these cool things, but they also had all these really nasty drawbacks, some of which, of course, were, determinate for the DM to enforce. But there were a bunch of really horrible negatives. Like, if you were in sunlight for more than an hour, take damage, you're -1 to hit everything all the time if there's lights on. It was bad. It was like being a vampire, except, without being the undead. You had some serious drawbacks. And then as time has moved on, they've pulled those drawbacks back a little bit, back a little bit further. And now in 5th ed, being a dark elf, being a Drow, I want to say you have disadvantage on certain rolls and perception checks and stuff in light. It is nowhere near as bad as it used to be being a Drow, and that is because the player base continues to feel that Drow are awesome. And so the designers, they don't want to alienate their player base. They don't want their player base to go, I want to play these, but I can't because the rules are so restrictive. If that's the case, you're leaning very heavy on your game master or your dungeon master to adjust those rules to make it better for your game. So instead, designers took the opportunity to make it better for everybody, and leave it in the hands to the dungeon master to just, if you don't like the idea of Drow being in your game, you just don't let them. You say, hey, let's not make Drow. Whether or not their rule sets are good, let's not make any because this particular story arc does not dig on Underdark or whatever. And I think that sort of effect, that kind of initial, enter Driz Duerden ripple for the rest of game is where that game design, that balance comes into play. Not game balances and rules. Those you can eventually iron out. Hopefully not in an initial game system. My personal belief, and I was mentioning this earlier, but I got distracted. I got on a tangent. Is that your initial rule set, your initial product, needs to be as absolutely balanced as it can be, because that's how you're getting people to get into the game initially and to enjoy what you've created. If you go for here's the cool right out of the gate, hopefully the cool will be hand in hand with your rules balance out of the initial design, but the goal is to make this a fun game for everybody, a balanced game for everybody, a situation where let me put it in a different way. There is nothing that bothers me more looking at a game set, a game rule set, especially if there's choices involved, and someone says one of the following things. 1, why would you ever take this? That statement means that whatever you're looking at is either so ineffectual for the game that it is just there for flavor, that and there's nothing wrong with flavor, absolutely not, but if it's any kind of metered resource, anything that they have to spend points on, anything that they have to that they are choosing to not augment their character by taking this thing, or augment their deck by taking this thing that is otherwise just window dressing, that's a problem, because not only are you wasting time and wasting resources in designing this, you are also setting up players or game masters or whatever that might not recognize initially that that is a lesser choice, or is an ineffectual choice, or is a window dressing choice, and they could end up getting a bad taste in their mouth about your game because they're like, oh, I love the idea of this helmet of carpet control or whatever. I digress, but whatever is going on, if they get the impression that that was not a choice on purpose, that you didn't design this item, this choice, this thing to be window dressing, that you designed it hoping that it was going to be awesome and that it wasn't, it makes you as a designer look like you intentionally put in mistakes, or unintentionally put these mistakes in, or intentionally made a mistake and then just didn't fix it, instead of it wasn't a mistake, it was a choice to create this sort of window dressing option. That's one statement, is why would I ever take this? 2 is the opposite. Why would I ever not take this? Because that means you've created a choice or an asset or whatever that is too good for your current rule set. If there's a quote unquote no-brainer, unless the rules are specifically dictating that you have to have X in order to have X. Like, I can't have, for instance, in the old Star Wars role-playing game, you could not have precise shot allowing you to shoot into close combat with your blaster without any penalty unless you also had point-blank shot. That's a different story. Having prerequisites for something down the road, that's okay. Instead, having something that I have to take this every time because it is too good for the points I'm spending, or it is too important to every character to have this. If it becomes a choice that everybody is taking anyway, either A, it's too good, like it's too efficient, it's too good, it's breaking your rule set because you're making it a choice, or B, it needs to not be a choice. Because if everybody's taking it because everybody has to have it, then just maybe adjust the game so everybody has it. It's that old statement of if everybody is special, nobody's special, and that goes with game balance as well. Is that if you're forcing everybody to make this choice every single time because they have to have this thing to compete, in any game ever, then just give that to everybody. Make it part of the core game set. If everybody has to spend points to be able to redraw their mulligan hand because the assets aren't right in their card deck, then give everybody a free mulligan. Don't make them spend assets on it. Just realize that is something in the game that people might need, is to be able to redraw that initial hand of cards. So you just say, all right, cool, everybody can do it. Dunzos. Easy peasy. And then the third, and my probably least favorite thing to hear, whether it is on the internet or in discussing, in somebody's game chat or discussing at the table, here are two words that are put together, and my friends have heard this many times, and heard my rant about this many times, and I'm, fair warning, listeners, I'm going to probably drop a little tiny curse word here. Anybody who puts these two words together when discussing something they're doing in a game, they are an asshole. Those words are perfectly legal, or a combination or a facsimile therein. I have never heard those words used aside to describe, to justify and describe something that you're doing that you probably shouldn't be, that that the rules didn't intend for it, or maybe you found a loophole, or maybe you found these things, or what you're doing, that you're saying that because you need everybody at the table to recognize, I'm doing this because the rules say it's allowed, not because I can. No one says, hey, I parked in this parking spot because it's perfectly legal. No one says that. Someone says, hey, I parked in this half spot that's next to the handicap spot because it's not painted quite right and there's no sign there. Totally. It's perfectly legal for me to park there. I won't get busted. It's always a jerk move. And maybe it's just my ears, and that's what I hear. Every time I hear somebody say, well, it's perfectly legal, or the rules allow for it, is they're trying to justify bad behavior. And I don't, very, very rarely do I point my finger and waggle and really mean it at someone. But someone who's at the table, who is willingly and choosing to use these loopholes and to wrench the life out of these games at the expense of the fun factor of the other players playing, that's bad, in my opinion. That is a bad gamer. A bad gamer who does not care about whether or not the other people playing the game, capital Game, if you don't care about the fun that your other players are having, then you need to stop for a second and look at yourself as a gamer and realize this is just a game. That everybody should be hopefully having fun. Yeah, there's going to be winners, there's going to be losers, there's going to be, situations where people are, oh, my dice betrayed me, or, oh, man, your choice of this feat plus that is cooler. But overall, the goal is for everyone to walk away from the table smiling and happy. And I could get on a little tangent here about a D&D game that I played very recently, where there were a couple of players that left less than happy, and luckily that had almost nothing to do with the game. It had everything to do with some other stuff going on, but it left a bad taste in my mouth. Not the game, but the situation, that knowing that there were people that took time out of their life to do this and that weren't enjoying themselves to the fullest. I digress. So this goes, that mentality comes back to me as a designer and a player and a gamer, that I want players, I want my clients, I want everybody to be having fun and having a good time. And if that means that some of my design choices are designed more to prolong a game's enjoyment rather than cut off the head and the snake will die, then that's on me. And it's because I prefer to see my players having a good time and laughing and enjoying themselves than necessarily a checkmate style by the math. All right, I'm gonna. I see the clock here and it's running because I spent a long time talking about stuff that wasn't game balance related. I'm gonna give you two designs that I have seen the back end of that I believe very firsthand explain kind of the difference in mentality. So while I was at CMON, while I was at Cool Mini or Not, I was in charge of Dark Age, and Dark Age is still an amazing game, and there's still a lot of loyal players. They haven't put out anything new for it. I still create stuff from eBay for people to be able to use some of those unmade models. But when I designed stuff for Dark Age, it was very, very much a rule of cool to start. The balance came in after the fact and during playtest, but it was very much the story requires this to happen. The narrative is forging this forward. I want robot dinosaurs, or whatever the case may be. Is that game was very, since it was so narrative and so flavorful, that a lot of those individual characters had their own special rules. They had rules that broke the rules of the game. And I think that also goes along with just about any other game. You look at Fallout Wasteland Warfare, there's a core set of rules, but then a lot of the cards and a lot of the equipment allow you to change up what's happening, so the rules will fit the dude, will fit the model, will fit the scenario, will fit the moment. And games like that speak to me because they're very story driven. They're very narrative driven. There's a story as an author and a writer. The story and the personality behind my little pieces of plastic and resin and metal on the table is just as important to me, if not maybe more so, than winning the game. Especially if you've ever watched me play games, I tend to be less efficient of a gamer when gaming with stuff that I've designed, because I want to play with all the toys. I don't necessarily want to win. I just want to play with all the toys. Whereas if I'm playing like 40K or a game that I have no hand in, like creatively, I am more likely to play that one a little more tactically, a little more, no, I am going to try and build this army to be a little more winny, a little more competitive, although I would never call myself a competitive gamer, because there are a lot of things that people do when they become competitive gamers that make me crazy, and why I don't play in a lot of tournaments. 40K tournaments currently, I think I don't enjoy them. Because the rule set has gotten to the point where it is very easy for players to fall into that category of, well, why wouldn't I do this? This is what wins me games. And that's not okay by me. That's not my thing. On the other hand, when talking about CMON Design, they have another game that's very popular, and I enjoy playing it a great deal, the Song of Ice and Fire miniatures game, that is, in my opinion, quite the opposite direction of game design. Michael is creating a game that is very numbers, very measured all times, simplistic rules to make sure that there's not no room for error, and it is, you see a lot of armies that are, I don't want to say the same as each other, because that's not the right thing. That's not the right way to put it. But there are a lot of units that people compare, and unless they've added other flavors to it, they're not that different. And that comes down to, this is a close combat unit that functions this way within the parameters of this. This is a range unit. It functions this way. And so there's a lot of instances when it comes to song that I believe the design has very much it has leaned on the, nope, we designed this for game balance rather than the rule of cool. The rule of cool came secondary. I understand that is the concept. I get it. It is not how I would do things. I still enjoy the game. I love the game. I think that it's awesome. And I think that it's got a lot of legs, and it can really go lots of different places if they decide to kind of open things up a little bit. But as it is, there's a reason why that rulebook is so small, and why Michael is a board game designer, very, very astute. He is a very astute board game designer, and his rule sets tend to be very tight, very mechanical, and the less random and the less, I hate to use the term goofy, but the less random that he can have in a rule set, the better. That's not my shtick. That's not how I handle things, and that's not the way that I see a lot of my games. When I design stuff, I like a lot of dice rolling and a lot of gotcha moments and things like that. Because those are the things that I think that when you go back and tell your friends about this game, it's very rarely is the moment oh my god, I can't believe that I made that exact 8-inch charge to flank the thing that I planned because of my cavalry. That's not what you write home about. You tell your friends about the time that dragon swooped in, screwed up its charge, and my return volley took the dude right off the back. The dragon went crazy because he rolled snake eyes and flew off the table in a fit of rage. These are things that I think that are more memorable, is when the winds of fate and chaos on the tabletop sort of come together. And it's not to say that mechanical soundness doesn't have a good place. It really does. I just prefer a game that has a little more game to it and a little less math and structure. If that makes any sense. I don't know. I've been going for over an hour now, and I probably have tangented quite a bit. We're just again, I could talk about game design mentalities and things forever. When it comes to different types of games, I also think that there's a different school there. When it comes to making card games, things that have finite resources, I tend to be a little more on the math side. A little more of the, all right, if it's a 40 card deck, then 10 of this, 12 of this, 8 of this, 10 of this, 5 of this, 5 of this. That's my math structure. That's my Venn diagram of things that need to get put together. If it's a miniatures game, I tend to be more on the fun side of things. What do I want to see on the battlefield? What do I want to see enjoying myself? On a board game design should probably be pretty math heavy, because you need to be able to have this. You might not be able to get the expansion that you want when you design this game. So this game needs to be a done deal out of the initial box. You should not design something that is going to need an expansion later. It might benefit from an expansion, but it shouldn't need one out of the box. And then role-playing games. I don't think that there is a right and wrong way in my brain. Because there are times where someone will look at me and say, hey, we're going to play, this game's going to be very dungeon crawly, it's going to be very hack and slash, not a lot of role play, and I will do more of a math-based character. I will do a character that is, all right, yep, I'm here to beat heads and hopefully survive through your dungeon. But for the most part, I think a lot of times, as I mentioned in, I think it was last week's episode, I tend to want to always tell a story with the character, even in a grindy role-playing dungeon crawl. So you're probably going to see me be way more rule of cool in role-playing game design stuff, with the exception of if I am designing the monsters. The monsters are going to be very by the number. I take very close consideration of their average dice rolls. I take in consideration of just how scary will this be for the challenge rating. Does it imply in its narrative that there will be minions around? Because I don't ever want to hear one of my monsters or one of my creations put into a situation where the DM bamboozled the players. This challenge rating is this, but then we got into combat, he was able to do all these things that you added in as a bunch of maybes, and they all worked out, and he slaughtered everybody. I don't want that either. So when it comes to the actual design of role-playing game assets, I'm very numbers heavy. Yeah, I want it to be awesome. I want people to go, oh my god, I can be a cannibal? That's fantastic. I want that. But I want it mechanically to be sound and to work and not break everything. Because, again, I don't want players to go to their tables and go, oh my god, did you see this new feat? I have to take it. You'd be an idiot not to. You get it. All right, so in wrapping up, we talked about all the cool stuff that I was doing, and then we got me on a tangent about design mentality between game balance and rule of cool. And I don't know, maybe this was just me rambling for a little bit, but whatever the case may be, it was a fun chat. You got me talking about things, and now I got to get back to actually designing stuff again. It's about that time. Hopefully this weekend you guys have got some cool stuff lined up. I actually, as far as I can tell, looking at my calendar, I don't have anything game-wise that I'm really doing. I get to see an old friend for dinner that I haven't seen in a while. But then most of the weekend's probably gonna be painting and getting caught up in design stuff. So as always, I hope you're having a good time, and let's just play some games.